everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Globe Talks with Trader series. I'm your host, Sunlight, and today I'm delighted to welcome onto the show Jaimin Patel.
Hi.
Founder and builder at Caddi. So what do you want to find out about what problems Caddi is solving, what's available to you as an algo trader, and what Jaimin's thoughts are on the current market pulse? Welcome.
Thank you.
The Globe mobile app is now live on the Apple App Store. Trade anytime, anywhere, with any asset as collateral. Stay connected with all your positions on the go. Globe, exchange everything, now even easier.
So, welcome to the show, Jaimin. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Great, it's a pleasure to have you. So, could you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into the crypto sphere?
Sure. So I'm Jaimin. I've been in the space for a couple years now. I actually got first involved with blockchain in 2017 when I tried to create a university blockchain club at Imperial. That got shut down for various reasons, but kind of was always staying aware of the space. I've always been a builder, interested in the most exciting technology, having studied computer science and aerospace engineering. I had a brief foray into traditional finance, where I was a quant at Citibank. And then I also was publishing research on social media information and distributed robotics. With crypto itself, I started trading it. So I was kind of in the US waiting for my job to start and realized that the only thing I could trade without security regulations was crypto. So I started automating trades based off signals that I found. And that was event-based trading on social media and web scraping. It ended up working pretty well to give myself a bit of personal runway, such that I fully entered the space, got very excited by what people were building, and started to address some of the problems that I found in the space, which naturally has ended up with me founding Lazy Trade.
Awesome. It's funny that you started out on like news trading almost, because I've heard that it's very risky, right? So how did you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, so part of my background in research was on social media misinformation. So I was looking at Twitter data, looking for things like conspiracy theories and bots. And I repurposed a lot of that infrastructure that I built for Twitter to scrape crypto Twitter. As you can imagine, it's a pretty messy space. So there's a lot of different influencers, traders, developers, all which can influence the price. So I first started out by kind of experimenting. I thought, why not automate a trade based on what this user is saying or what Coinbase is listing? And it ended up working pretty well. I obviously didn't put too much money behind it in the first trade, but it ended up scaling up and it ended up being pretty profitable.
Awesome, I love that for you. So what, in your opinion, is the most exciting thing about blockchain?
I mean, there's a lot that's really exciting about the space. And I think for me, like beyond obviously the transparency of data, the amount of innovation that's happening in the space, is actually as a developer, the composability, the ability to take an application, adapt, and plug into so many different components of the ecosystem. For example, if you're building a DeFi, you have to access a DEX, maybe a lending market, and you can build new structures, new products that haven't really existed before without asking for permission. If you think about how that works in a traditional way, you'll have to request APIs, you'll have to get various approvals from the companies that issue them in order to do that. And it just allows this experimentation, which in some people's eyes is good, some people's eyes is bad, but I think that does produce a lot of innovation.
Of course, yeah. So you mentioned being an algo trader previously. I mean, are you still algo trading?
I'm doing less of that as I'm building Lazy Trade full-time. Awesome. So I spent the whole of 2021 exploring the space. Had a bit of personal runway to do hackathons, ended up winning some prizes in some, which was good fun, and also building infrastructure to help myself manage my portfolio. So I came across a few problems. One, that the space was very messy and scattered, where you have different technologies, layer ones, layer two blockchains, and a multitude of wallet solutions, and also centralized exchanges, which you have different products on each of the places and unique opportunities. And to really get involved in crypto, you have to get set up on all of these different platforms. And it results in a very time-consuming process to track all of your assets and trade them. And that's the problem that I'm addressing. So with respect to the algo trading, I'm doing less of that. The market conditions have changed quite a bit. And I transitioned what I was building from more like an automation and a bot-related trading strategy to investing and trading long-term.
Awesome. So you mentioned what you're addressing with Lazy Trade. So how is Lazy Trade kind of addressing these problems?
Right. So as I mentioned, you have so many different ecosystems, and what results is a scattered portfolio. What we do in Lazy Trade is consolidate the view. So you can track all of your assets independent of what blockchain you want to use, which wallet solutions you want to use, so you can connect your exchanges and your wallets to trade everything from one platform. And we're really focusing on UX. I noticed a few things when I started diving deep into crypto was, you have different looking user interfaces for ultimately the same service. So, Binance looks different from Uniswap, which looks different from a whole host of applications, which really facilitate trading. And what we do is we consolidate the view so it feels really simple, really easy to use, and it's all available at one click. You can, with a Chrome extension, trade any asset on any of those exchanges that I mentioned, and you can also track your holdings too.
That's awesome. So actually, to speak more on user experience, you did mention the Chrome extension, but a lot of trading nowadays is done on phones, right?
Yeah.
So what are your plans with that?
Yeah, so if you think about fintech apps now, you can start a bank account from your mobile in just a few clicks. I think that's a huge unlock, which crypto hasn't really reached yet. We saw recently a wallet got hacked, a Slope wallet on Solana, because they were asking for people's seed phrases, something that obviously you should never give out, and they'd stored it in plain text. So it was a very simple, way to get someone hacked their system and they got access to everyone's wallets who had uploaded their seed phrase. And until we really crack this security perspective, with mobile, it's going to be quite hard to see huge adoption. This is where centralized exchanges have a big advantage because you don't need to give up something like a seed phrase. The security is all run on their servers. Whereas, when you think about crypto self-custodial wallets, you do need to kind of outsource the security to the user or the application which it's using. I do think crypto, once inter-app communication is solved between the wallet and the decentralized app that you're using, you'll see a huge unlock. We can see, MetaMask can connect to different applications. There's a few really cool trading platforms in DeFi, but I do think, until we really solve the problem of having to transport your wallet into that app specifically to access, one small component of the ecosystem, we're not going to see huge mainstream adoption. With Lazy Trade itself, we are planning to go mobile in the future. We actually currently have a Telegram bot, which you can start, and you can start trading on it. So you can link to your Binance exchange, Kraken and KuCoin as well, and you can trade. So with Lazy Trade, we're also getting SEP on mobile in the future, but we currently have a Telegram bot, which allows you to track your positions across centralized exchanges. So we're linked to Binance, Kraken, and KuCoin currently, and you can trade all from a command line using Telegram. So you know how it is in crypto where information can hit 24/7. Having a really convenient interface to execute trades is something quite important to us. So you can track your signals from social media, you can trade, and you can monitor all your positions, at the tap of a button from Telegram.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So can you actually tell me more about it? So it's literally just, on the chats, and then it just shows you all your positions in the chat? Or?
Yeah. So, there's a bot that you can start. You just go to our website, and then you can connect to your Telegram, and you upload your API keys to our wider platform on the website. So that gives you access to balance, read, and trade on the centralized exchanges. And then what we do is we allow you to customize a feed. So you can choose which users that you want on Twitter, but we're going to expand to more signals in the future. Then you'll get a live feed of all of that information. You'll identify any tokens there. So you can check the price of those tokens through buttons. So it is like a chat. And then you can actually execute trades, if there's things like hacks going on, if there's, something, big happening in news, market moving information, you can essentially see your positions across the different exchanges you've executed them on, see like the profit and loss of them, all live on the go too.
Oh, wow. So is there really a need for a Caddi app then by itself?
We talk to a lot of our users, and that's the most important thing. And I think there are limitations to what you can do in a chat interface. For sure, convenience is something that they really valued, and they really like having a live feed of all the information that they want to track there. But I do think when we think about DeFi and actually catering towards people using wallets, tracking their assets on chain, that's not something as easily that we can do. And also, I don't think everyone wants to execute all of their trades on Telegram because a lot of people use it as a messaging app.
Yeah. Cool. So yes, actually, something that I've noticed since joining the cryptosphere, everyone uses Telegram. So why is that?
I love Telegram. I think it's really messy though. I think it does provide a lot of value, particularly in security, making sure that your chats are, private and secure, but also you have a few different groups that you can create. You can create channels. So if you're just like a news distribution platform, the top headlines you can distribute to a channel, which is one way. And then you can also have massive group chats that, for example, I'm in a few communities and they're mostly run through Telegram and Discord. I think there's an age-old debate of like, do we start on Discord? Do we start on Telegram? We start with a Telegram chat because, naturally our bot is on Telegram too. But I would say that, consolidating everything into one place is quite important. So, for example, most of the communications with the people I know in crypto happen on Telegram. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a few that use WhatsApp still, and we communicate on Slack. But I do think it's an advantage of having everything in one place. And there's also really cool features if you set up with folders that you can kind of categorize different groups, different channels, and people that you talk to into specific places.
Yeah, it's great. So I was thinking something that popped into my head. You know how like Binance has Binance Lite and Pro?
Yeah.
Is that something you're going to delve into?
So we're thinking about a Pro version, and the Chrome extension, naturally, because it's a very small interface, will allow you to, have a light version. It's, you connect your APIs, you can execute. At the moment, it's market orders, but we're putting in limits and stop limits. Then for the Pro tier, we have a larger interface, which is on the website for the more experienced traders who want, more data and more information.
Awesome. So you're thinking of catering not just to beginner traders, but also more pro.
Yeah, I think about the space in, there's 3 different types of users. There's one who just uses Coinbase or just uses Binance and they hold their holdings, right? Mm-hmm. So we're not really catering towards that user. And then there's, a full DeFi user, someone who is like maybe an anon online, who they're trading in the DeFi space and they're quite set up. Yet there's this whole range of users in between that who are just getting started with blockchain technology, with self-custody using wallets like MetaMask. Now there's more reasons to actually hold things on chain. If we think about decentralized applications or in DeFi, accessing any products, obviously some are yield generating, some are trading related. There's DAOs and governance, new organizational structures. There's also NFTs, which is a whole ecosystem, and in-game assets. And these users now fragment their funds, onboarding from a centralized exchange, moving them more on chain, and now they have no way to manage that. So we're really catering towards that user.
That's awesome. So what are your favorite trading strategies when using bots?
Right. For me, it was event-based trading. So I kind of think about the space in, where I can capture alpha, that's the thing I'm going to be trading. So it started with that experimentation, as I mentioned. My favorite strategies were kind of looking for low latency signals that I could capture and essentially beat the market. So that was anything last year from Elon Musk tweets to Coinbase listings, but also web scraping. And I have noticed that the space has been, more competitive and that profits are harder to come by. So I would say that, it does depend on kind of where the markets are. I definitely saw a few arbitrage opportunities, which I started to execute between Solana using the decentralized exchange Serum and on the centralized exchange MEXC. So I managed to automate that and I was able to profit before the Solana ecosystem had some issues. So it's kind of, figuring out the best way that you can profit.
So you mentioned centralized exchanges and DEXs, right? So can you talk about the benefits of each?
Yeah, for sure. Well, for a start, decentralized exchanges, they tend to be available to completely anyone. So anyone who has a wallet on that particular chain can plug in, they can trade any assets, and it does tend to capture far more assets because typically anyone can list anything on a decentralized exchange and make a market for it. It also reduces the barrier of entry for market makers, as we've seen automated market makers and various variations on that. And then on the centralized side, I would say that it does, the real benefit there is UX. For example, you don't have to have a wallet, you upload your funds quite similar to how you would on pretty much any platform that you interact with in fintech. And then the spreads tend to be fairly low when you're trading. It does depend on which exchange you're using, obviously. But I would say that in terms of risks, there are some exchange risks that you're exposed to. You're exposed to exchange hacks. You could be exposed to a risk of your jurisdiction being blacklisted. I think here in the UK, for futures, trading on Binance was recently blocked. So I think decentralized exchanges offer a bit more flexibility and also access to a different type of asset.
Awesome. So I'm getting a slight vibe that, DeFi equals you can skirt regulation.
That's definitely true in its current form. I think we've seen a few regulators want to crack down on particularly in the US. It was the CFTC, was tackling UkiDAO, which was a very early DeFi product, and they did get hacked a bunch of times as well. So I think maybe there is good reason for that. I think currently, yes, it is a way for people to spin up an exchange very easily and skirt regulations. I think centralized exchanges naturally would have to be regulated from the start because independent of which jurisdiction they're operating in, they will have to have a license to do that.
Awesome. Yes. So I know you said about the hacks and stuff. So with a centralized exchange, it's insured, right? So if it gets hacked, it's insured by the exchange, no?
Somewhat. So it really does depend on the exchange. I don't imagine that if every single centralized exchange got hacked, then they'd all be able to pay all of the funds back.
Right.
But I do think for some of the larger players, this is a bit of speculation that you would be insured. We obviously haven't seen any major hacks happen recently. I guess one of the larger ones, Bitfinex got hacked, Mt. Gox obviously, and we saw Leo, the token, be issued, which is designed to if the funds got recovered, which they did, be used to pay back token holders or people who lost money in the hack. So I think there are certain exchanges which do implement that, but I'm not sure if I can speak for all of them.
So this kind of trading strategy, it doesn't matter if we're in a bull or a bear market, does it?
Yeah, so I would say that it does depend on who else is trading that particular signal. In the bull market, for example, Coinbase listings, they were more likely to influence the price a lot more, as well as Elon Musk tweets about Dogecoins and that sort of thing.
Awesome. So obviously everyone else would have access to the same information, right?
Right.
So how do you get an edge when trading with bots? Because as I said, everyone has the same information.
That's a really interesting question. And I think there are two ways to have an edge. Firstly is, to come first. So if you are someone who can execute with lower latency than all of your competitors, the people who are trading the same thing, then you can capture the alpha. And you can just make sure that you have the fastest software, the fastest hardware. And now there's a lot of quant funds, I guess, doing quite similar strategies, which is why the profits have been squeezed. Secondly is to be better. So one thing that I tried to, I was automating was I scraped a huge amount of data from all sorts of social media channels, Telegram, Twitter, and I was looking at, statistically what keywords would influence a price as well as, sentiment as well. So you can take into context, the market cap of that token, how much this trader is likely to influence the price. And I was actually able to capture a bit of alpha, but I would say that, you have to do a lot more research and you have to be, willing to put in the time and effort into exploring that strategy.
Absolutely, thank you. So Jaimin, what are your top 3 trading tips? But bear in mind, this is not investment advice. So
yeah, 100% not financial advice. So top 3 tips. Firstly, there's this concept in machine learning of exploration versus exploitation. And I think when you're getting set up as a retail trader who's naturally trading the markets, you'd want to experiment to find out where the alpha is. And then you try a few strategies, you see what works, you maybe run some of them live. Then when you do find something that really works, it's about doubling and maybe even tripling down on that edge to make sure that you can capture as much profit, because the likelihood is that that strategy is not going to last forever and it's going to become more congested over time. So that's the first tip. The second tip would be, you should always manage your risk, make sure that your downside is limited and that you're not putting your funds at risk. And then the last trading tip is the market conditions do change. So you have to be well aware of that and have a plan for what happens then. I can talk from personal experience that I kind of knew these strategies wouldn't last forever. And I was building Lazy Trade on the side initially to ensure that in the long term I could be a participant in the space. And now that's become my full-time gig and I'm really enjoying it.
Right, so you mentioned market conditions, right? So how would you personally prepare yourself for a bear market?
Right, so we're seeing profits harder to come by. I do think there are certain bots which you can start now which will work well for delta neutral strategies. Mm-hmm. So if you're not predicting a huge bull market, prices to go to all-time highs, then you can start grid bots. You can do mean reversion strategies. You can find spread trades where you can find somewhat correlated assets as well. I do think these are going to be particularly promising in the bear market. But in general, like I think for a lot of retail traders, the best idea might just to be wait it out and then figure out, when your edge does return, when you can capture more value from prices going up, then actually to invest more at that time.
Awesome. So what are your own thoughts on the market right now, and what do you think will happen within the next year or so?
Well, I'm no macroeconomic expert, and I do think, it's quite hard to predict these things, even if you are. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't like to make a call on whether the bottom is in or not, as well as kind of like predicting prices and things. But I would say that I'm pretty bullish on the technology itself and what people are building behind the scenes. So I do think there are going to be some sectors which maybe they're new, for example, DeFi and NFTs, that wasn't even in my vocabulary 3 years ago. So I would say that there'll be kind of new narratives forming and there'll be a way to trade them. And then beyond that, I do think the return of the bull market is probably not going to happen because of things like monetary policy. But I just wouldn't expect to see all-time highs anytime soon.
Yeah, it's nice that you're having a realistic view of it, right? So a quick side note, what is your most controversial thought in crypto?
That regulation is great, actually. I'm really looking forward to having a bit more clarity into being able to design our application and our entire business with more framework around, are we going to be regulated as a crypto asset service provider? Are we going to be able to, integrate with decentralized exchanges, and just having a lot more clarity rather than building with a multitude of possibilities, which, is quite hard to do in general.
Right. So are you kind of building with lots of different situations in mind and saying, if this happens, we have to go this way and vice versa? Yeah,
so we're talking to a law firm at the moment to figure out how we should be regulated. And there's naturally a fork depending on if we're going to be custodial. Currently, we don't hold any assets. So you can connect your exchanges and the assets are held on your Binance or your FTX. And then you can also connect your wallets. So you can trade on decentralized exchanges. And when we start to be a custodian, if we have our own wallet solution, then you have to be regulated as such. Then you have to put in, if you're regulated as an exchange, anti-money laundering and other policies. So we are preparing for things like that. But I would say that currently in its state that we don't have to do a lot of these, quite arduous tasks with respect to regulation.
Awesome. So adding on to the exchange point, because obviously Globe is an exchange, what would you say that possible synergies are within the exchange with Lazy Trade?
Absolutely. So we want to give the most comprehensive service to any retail trader. So whatever centralized exchange they use, whatever assets they want to trade, we'll facilitate them to be able to buy it and track it and manage their positions all from one place. If a user is set up on Globe, holds assets with them, we'd love to plug in to APIs so that the user can manage their positions from the same place that they can trade DeFi, and then the same place that they have tokens that aren't listed on Globe, for example, on Binance and so on.
Awesome. So with the whole different exchange thing, have you thought about interoperability within different coins and stuff like that?
So yeah, the same asset, I guess, is offered by a whole host of different places. And the idea is that we can optimally route an order to the best price and liquidity for every trade. Or if you hold assets on one exchange, this isn't a feature that we currently have, but you could withdraw that, and then you could execute a trade somewhere and have it end up wherever you wanted. And I think there's a lot of work to be done from a security perspective when you start to enable withdrawals, because naturally a user would be quite afraid of giving permissions like that via API. But I do think it's a huge unlock. If you think about services like Fireblocks, they essentially do that for institutional customers. I think in the future, as the space is fragmenting a bit more, I think we need to make sure that that's offered for retail customers as well.
Awesome. So you're really kind of diversifying the space.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously we want the best execution for every trader. So independent if you're retail or if you're someone who's more set up on the institutional side, everyone wants the best price for the asset that they're trading. And there's a huge amount of places that we can go to source that. And I think that's a huge unlock for a lot of people who might not be set up on every platform if we can provide the best liquidity for them.
Awesome. Nice. So you actually also mentioned, keeping people secure. So do you have anything in place?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm pretty excited about. I think right now, retail don't really have the tools to adequately protect themselves when they're interacting, especially on-chain. I think centralized exchange hacks are becoming less frequent. And then there are certain measures that we can implement for ourselves. Like, for example, we got security audited to make sure that any API key that a user gives to us, that we encrypt it using public-private key encryption, and it's stored in a secure database on AWS. But on-chain, things are quite messy and there's a lot of scams out there. So I don't think retail users particularly have a way to make sure that everything that they sign is going to be safe. So what we're doing is working with a few APIs which can give a user a guardrail to make sure that the contract that they're signing is whitelisted. So it can be something that is going to be, if you're executing a trade, it can simulate the transaction saying you're going to be trading USDC for ETH, for example. Or if you're signing a transaction, you're making sure that it doesn't give permissions for a hacker to steal all of your funds. And I think that's a really powerful value proposition, that if we can be with you on every web page, we can actually secure you as well as have all the UX benefits of managing everything from one place.
Awesome, thank you. So what are your next steps at Lazy Trade?
Well, I'm really excited about this. We're going to be rebranding. We're going to be rebranding to Caddi, Caddi.fi, C-A-D-D-I. And we are, it's a bear market now, the perfect time to build. So it's a build market for us, and we've got a lot of plans in the pipeline. I mentioned someone security, so making sure that users are protected when interacting with the entire ecosystem. We want to get set up on more exchanges and offer more products, firstly, trading, so assets, but also in DeFi and going cross-chain as well. And then, lastly, I think working with market makers too. That's something that we want to do. We're talking to a couple at the moment and forming partnerships so that we can generate revenue, but also we can provide better prices for the execution for every trade.
Awesome. So there's quite a lot going on.
Yeah.
So why the rebrand?
So Lazy Trade came about when we were first getting started. We were going to be, a full-on trading platform where users would be able to track signals, execute trades. And now, we realize that it's much more than just a trading platform. It's a companion. So the idea is it's with you on every web page, that whenever you want to execute a transaction, when you want to check a price, when you want to track your holdings, it can help you do that. And it can help you make sense of a very messy ecosystem, similar to how a caddy helps someone navigate the golf course. It just makes their life easier.
Oh, I see. Right. That's lovely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much, Jaimin, for your time.
Thank you, Sunlight and Globe.
So I will see you next time, and happy globe trading. Bye.